and afternoon. How does it find ya? The weather is looking good. It's looking good out there. Sun is shining. I wish I put my washing on. I could hang it out on the line. Saturday's change sheets day. How are we today? We just, for those of us in the UK, thinking about Mother's Day, which is tomorrow. Just want to acknowledge that it's all not all sunshine, lollipops and rainbows for everybody, you know, and it can be very difficult when we got a tricky parent. Let's be frank, let's be having it. It's your girl, Keely Taverner, psychotherapist. I'm the person that says the things sometimes we don't want to hear, but actually it can benefit us to hear these things so that we are much more informed as we live our life. Sometimes the writing's on the wall, we don't want to read it, you know. Sometimes we're acting like we can't read the writing on the wall. We do, but it's very inconvenient, and sometimes it is absolutely very difficult, and I totally get it and I respect it. But remember, denial and avoidance, I see you, Chris, it ain't great for the greatness. It ain't great for the greatness, you know what I'm saying, my people? It's not great for the greatness, so we have to become very mindful. Very mindful. For everybody, some of us, we've had very difficult mums. Some of us, it's not an ideal situation. Some of us want to escape Mother's Day, you know, because, you know, it's far from ideal. Or you might be missing a mama. You know, JetBlue, I see you. Big up Paris, massive, in the place to be with your girl Kiki. Say hello to mama. Tell her it's love all day long. So how are we feeling about Mother's Day? I know not everybody is based in the UK and the American day is different. For other people, Tricky Mothers and Mother's Day. How are you doing? It's your girl, Keely Taverner. I'm here, I'm going live. Quick conversation. Algorithm keeps telling me, go live, go live, go live. So here I am, I'm being obedient. So where does this leave you, my people? How's things going for you? Is Mother's Day a day of dread for you? Is it a day of concern? Or is it a day that you look forward to acknowledging your mamas? You know, and this is what I would like to say to people, you know, this has come up in therapy many times over the years. Keely Taverner, you should have organised this prior, that sometimes the mum you have may not be ideal. Her habits, her ways, even the way she raised you, you may have resentments towards your mum, and that's absolutely okay to have those resentments. Life happens, you know, motherhood is far from easy, but, you know, sometimes we might have other healthy mother figures. Hey, hon, I'll be celebrating my own motherhood, amen. Motherhood was a very difficult time for me when I'd broken up with my daughter's dad. I always found it very difficult. I had a dear friend Jessica, and she used to buy me gifts for Mother's Day because my daughter's father was not available, let's call it, you know. That mum was on to the next conquest. If you know what I'm talking about, give me a heart, give me a like, right? It's a long time. I haven't seen a fireplace. You know what I'm saying? Fireplace living. Beautiful fireplace. Very grateful for my office here in Marlow. Marlow is where I now reside. A little bit of social mobility going on here, and we're loving it, loving it, loving it. We're loving it like that. Social mobility isn't easy either. You know what I'm saying? You can't help it. It is what it is. We had a dream and a vision, and we made choices to bring that vision to life. And another day of receiving flowers from my clients. This is the second day in a row, man. I'm gonna have to buy more vases. I must be doing something right. It's your girl, Keely Taverner. We're here. Any questions you got about Mother's Day? How do you feel about it? You know, are you a mum who feels unappreciated? Do you feel that your children don't acknowledge, you know, what you've done, what you continue to do for them? And that's tricky. You know, that's really tricky. That's not nice at all. You know, but such is life sometimes. Sometimes we might have to learn to celebrate ourselves as mums, you know. But if you also have a tricky mum, potentially, you know, might have a narcissistic mum, a mum where they are just hard work. If you've got a mama who's hard work, you know, I do feel for you. I always say to people that I have a special place in my heart for people who have narcissistic parents, because, you know, they set a particular tone which actually paves way for a lot of other abusive relationships. You know, but I just want to take this time to honour all the mums out there, the things that, you know, we do as parents that are for the greater good of our children. Sometimes it's not appreciated. Sometimes it makes sense backwards. It takes time. Then we don't rely on these events for gratitude. I'm not sure what you mean, Gigi. Let me know what you mean. You know, sometimes we may not have the ideal mother, but you might have mother figures in your life. You know, and if this day, tomorrow, what it might represent for you is really difficult, think about who you might be able to share love with, who you might want to acknowledge as a mother figure in your life. It could be a teacher, a mentor, someone who's come alongside you. Yeah, what about the men whose parents were sectioned? What about the men whose parents were sectioned? Well, that's always very tricky growing up with a parent who's got mental health conditions. No two ways about it, you know, very tricky, very tricky. However, I believe it is important to give thanks, you know. When you know the origins of Mother's Day, sadly, I don't know the origins of origin, you know, there's only so many rabbit holes I'm gonna go down, but feel free to share if that makes sense to you. Let me know what questions you have, because it's not always easy. You know, I work with many souls. Sometimes our mothers might have passed away. They may not be here physically in the realm of, I don't know, they may not be here anymore. But however, there might be other mother figures who you can acknowledge. One of the things I must say about therapy is mums do get a hard, you know, they do get a hard going on in therapy, because generally mothers take a lot of the responsibility for raising children. I take full responsibility for, I'd like to think I do anyhow, you know, like it was my responsibility. I made a choice to bring my children into the world, so I take responsibility no matter what other choices I may have made. And I think there's great value in that. But also if you have adult children, I know it's tricky, but also that there also comes a point when you have to take responsibility for yourself, because sometimes, oh, you know, this happened in my childhood, that happened. Okay, so, but there's also when you become an adult that you have to take responsibility for yourself and for your choices. Yes, adverse things may have happened to you in the past. That's understandable. But as adults, I think the annoying thing sometimes is that you have to take responsibility for what's left. The residue of that, like, that is our cross to bear. And sometimes that might mean a whole life of healing, you know, that healing journey. Remember, a healing journey isn't like, oh yeah, you know, you do 10 sessions and then you're fixed. It doesn't quite work like that. It's a journey and a process. I've been a therapist long enough to know that, you know, sometimes people come back as life hits. Key, I need to have a word. Cool, sister, come back, you know. It's always an honor. The longer I've been a therapist, I've been privileged to people coming back, you know, and it's understandable. Life is not always easy, you know, but there is a rhythm to life. And one of the things I talk about on my course, Navigate Narcissism Now, is like there's some principles that if we can learn to live by, it can equip us. So where does Mother's Day leave you feeling? Do you kind of look at the Mother's Day paraphernalia in the shops and do you roll your eyes, or do you think, yep, it's a day to honor my mama? Or maybe it's a day to honor yourself, you know. It can be very tricky. You know, I'm very much mindful of women who desire to have children and, you know, for whatever reason that hasn't been able to manifest, and the trickiness of what that does. Time to acknowledge, you know. Remember, what we avoid will get worse. So there's value in being able to just acknowledge. It's not always easy. Today it affects me. People return to their mother's church after Lent. No, I have a narcissistic, toxic mum. Crosses boundaries, no intelligent, not a person to her. I feel you, Gigi. I like that. The pursuit of soft living. I keep hearing this thing. I saw Spice talking about soft living era. Soft living era is a whole nother level and a beautiful thing, you know, which is about us coming out of that masculine energy. For many hyper independent women, we've had to live in the alpha energy to be able to achieve, to push forward. So, you know, coming out of the masculine into our feminine energy can be a very powerful, significant change. So I just want to acknowledge that. I love that. It's a beautiful, let me know what pursuit of soft living looks like to you. Because remember, for some of us females, we may have never had a robust male figure in our lives. We have to be mindful. For some of us, we never have had safe, consistent love from a male figure. So it can make things a little bit tricky when we are talking about intimacy, love, relationships, when our blueprint has not necessarily been established. Oh no, lucky. This is the second bunch. I feel very honored to be acknowledged. So where does Mother's Day leave you? Thinking about mum, your relationship, how you want it to be, but also could it be time for a resolution if there has been things that you've had to do to protect yourself? One of the things I often see is, everybody's on the algorithm and everybody's Googling, and we feel very, very fortified in knowledge. However, what I would say about going no contact is no joke. Yeah. And if you've decided to go no contact with an unnecessarily difficult person, parent, understand that sometimes that doesn't sit right with your soul. Your conscience may irk you. You may feel uncomfortable about that. Sometimes we may need to reach out in ways that also keep us safe. It doesn't mean you run all up in the business. It doesn't mean you put yourself there face first. But you can share love in creative ways that can also protect you if you feel that actually you want to reach out. Doesn't mean you have to, but you can make a conscious choice about reaching out. But if you do choose to make a conscious choice to reach out to an unnecessarily difficult parent, then you have to stay grounded that you don't expect anything in return. You're not looking for any acknowledgement. You may not be looking for resolution, but for you, it's important for you to reach out, and there's nothing wrong with that. But as I said to many a soul, you gotta be grounded in I'm gonna give with no expectation. Yeah, no expectation, because it's the expectation. If any situation you're in, you find yourself feeling resentment, you find yourself feeling hurt, disrespected, then you have to understand the issue is you, and you have to check, what are your expectations? Often our expectations are hurting us. So when you find the resentment, when you notice yourself feeling resentment, frustration, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Sometimes in our gift giving, we have intentions. You have to check what those intentions are. When you're not conscious of what your intentions are, it's one of the ways you get hurt and frustrated. Surrender the expectation of reciprocity. And then if you choose to, this is a big one for us people pleasers. Us people pleasers who often end up in one way, give your all relationships where we give and don't get back in return. Anyone know what I'm talking about? That's the people pleaser in you. And if you keep finding yourself in those situations, there's a good darn reason for it. You would have learned somewhere in your timeline that people pleasing had currency and it gave you value. Often if we were invisible children, we learn that actually if I can trade being helpful, I get some form of value, I get noticed, I get some form of appreciation. And so that behavior becomes entrenched over time in our life. And often by the time we reach adulthood or we get into our intimate relationships, it becomes a problem over time. It takes time. Sometimes we've spoiled people, Sometimes we've spoiled people. Just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, this time of year is not easy for everybody. It's not always easy for everybody, whether we want to become a mom, whether, the mother we have is not ideal. It is what it is. We are where we are. Can we appreciate what we have in the meantime? Can we appreciate what we have in the meantime? And how can that inspire us? Life is not perfect. There are no perfect people. In fact, I would encourage you to be a little bit suspicious of anything that you consider to be perfect. Perfection is overrated, if you know what I'm talking about. I like people who are open about their flaws. Makes me feel comfortable. Yeah. There's always two sides to stories. There's always two sides. So who might it be that you need to show appreciation to? What ways can you begin to, appreciate yourself? Remember, there's a lot on for mums. Mums are often the dominant carers, and unfortunately, I think this is something I see often nowadays. The generation now, we're working on ourselves, people are going to therapy, and that's wonderful. And sometimes I've noticed a kind of like, we want to condemn our parents for what they didn't do, and they should have done this and they should have done that. I think sometimes it's a little bit unfair. What if they did the best they could based on what they knew then? Based on what they knew then, they may well have done the best that they could. Sometimes, I foresaw this with a lot of men I worked with. Sometimes some men I worked with have never asked their mum about an absent father. Sometimes men have not asked about the mother's relationships with the dad, which I always found interesting. Like, oh, have you never asked your mum about why you and the dad were never together? Like, no. It's always interesting. The mother who needs external validation from acquaintances but can't be available for children. Gigi, what do you mean by this? Is that an experience that you have, that your mother needs external validation but can't be available to her kids? That's always an interesting one, if that's something that you've noticed in your own experiences. That can be really difficult because it can leave you as the child feeling invisible, like you don't matter. And then you might see a performance and show from mama, and you're sitting there like, hold on, like, what is this about? That can be very disheartening, because it means that you have a parent that doesn't attune to your needs. And that you notice that they are very performative, very tricky. Yet performance and show for people, yeah. What do you think the impact of that has been on yourself? That's always the question you want to know. What has that done to you? What has that left you with? Because sometimes this can be the root of people pleasing, going above and beyond, because we're always seeking acknowledgement, yeah? And growing to the point where you kind of learn to accept that you won't be recognized, that mama's a chaser. She's always chasing clout. She's chasing it from other people, yeah? So for you, Gigi, that means that you've become hyper-independent. Yeah, so one of the challenge for hyper-independent people, especially females, is around becoming vulnerable. That can be very tricky, can sharpen our intimate relationships as well, most acutely. Yeah. So, but also within yourself, Gigi, what can also happen is a need to be perpetually strong. And anything weak or your own vulnerability is unacceptable to you. You have to be careful of that. It's one of the shadow sides of hyper-independence. Being vulnerable. Being vulnerable might be unacceptable to you. I've worked with a lot of clients who'd be like, Keely, I'm not depressed. I just need to boost my confidence. We start doing the work and we realize there's some depression going on there. But depression, because of the negative connotation, is unacceptable. Yeah. What is acceptable is I want to work on my confidence. Key, I don't need to see you as a psychotherapist. Can you coach me? I say, right, come Come. But if I'm going to coach you, we're going to have to look at some of the root cause to get under that, to realize why you lack confidence. Got to get to the root of that. Been there, done that. Now I'm just saying, just trying to live softly. What does living softly look like to you? What does it mean to you to live softly? Because these are very, and it won't be long before these words start showing up. I'm in my soft living era. Yeah, sounds good, but what does that actually mean? What does it actually mean for you to be in your soft era? What adaptations are you making to your life? What does that mean for you? How is that showing up? What does that look like to you now you're living in your soft area, your soft era? Because, sometimes we see these things being bandied about, but what does that actually mean in truth? Living honestly in tune with body and mind. Well, one of the things about living in body and mind is that the body is the wisdom holder. The body knows way before the head, but often many of us live in our heads, asking for help if needed, being attuned to my needs. Oh, bless you. And sometimes when you're in your, as you shift, it can be very tricky because people are not used to you having any needs. Yeah. And this is especially true if we had mothers who didn't attune to our needs. When we didn't have mummies who attuned to our needs, one of the things that happens for many of my people pleaser crew is we end up attuning to the needs of everybody else. We end up attuning to the needs of everybody else. And over time, it's one of the reasons why we get sad, we get depressed, because we feel invisible, or we feel that people take advantage of us. Not great for the greatness, if you know what I'm talking about. I'll take this opportunity to pick up all the mothers out there, It's not an easy task. Applying boundaries, you want to apply boundaries as ever. I'll always say to people, if you've got challenge with the boundaries, you'll have a problem with guilt, a bigger problem with guilt. When you apply boundaries, you're going to get a guilt reflex. And if you can't learn to manage your reaction to guilt, and remember, people talk about boundaries, but boundaries also need some consequences. If people are violating, what's the consequences? You put down a boundary in place. Remember, some of us, if we put a boundary in place, we're highly likely to be abandoned. And what do you do when you get pushback? Because the pushback is not often nice, especially if people have power over you, financial power over you, housing power over you, job power over you, promotional power over you. Yeah, boundaries sounds good, but in isolation, what does it actually mean? You got to give that context, because sometimes you have to kiss the ass before you kick it. I'm a massive advocate of that. Putting boundaries in place, sometimes you got to get yourself level before you start to exercise truth and wisdom. I ain't lying. If you know what I'm talking about, give me a heart, give me a like. We have to move stealth. We have to delay gratification and be ever mindful, because if not, those people can sabotage us because they're not nice. Yeah, they'll exert and let you know that they have power and control over you. That's why I'm a massive advocate of free will, but also empowering myself. How can I empower myself? And sometimes that means you have to delay gratification. Like I said, sometimes you got to kiss the ass before you kick it. Freedom is not free. Freedom is not free. I must say it again. Freedom is not free. My mother was so overwhelmed, I became her mother. I was too young. So the parentification of the child, absolutely. So Evolved 84, the challenge you have then is often you're moving to adulthood caring for everybody else. And then you may even have a career where you're caring. So you're forever giving out. You're forever plowing in, sowing into people. And often for many of us who, sow into other people, people don't sow back into us. So pay attention if there's resentment. Pay attention if there's frustration. Pay attention if you feel like people take the downright pee out of you. one of the biggest challenges will be for you is to articulate what you need because you had a mummy who didn't attune to your needs. This is the inner child work. We have to acknowledge that when we have a mama, for whatever reason, who didn't attune to our needs, we grow up into adults who are disassociated from our own needs. And one of the things that we do is we are very much attuned to everybody else. And another thing that can catch us out is we're baffled why other people don't see it. But that's because often we assume that everybody comes from the same paradigm as us, and they don't. We assume people come from the same paradigm. Empathic people, you have to understand not everybody comes from your perspective. You know, we have Apple phone, we have Android phone. Some people got different drives, different internal working systems. Our way is not the only way. But like I said, often Evolved 84, you may find that you attract very needy people. And what that does is it enables you to go into your comfort zone, your comfort role of attuning to everybody else. The challenge for you is to endeavor to meet people who humanize you, who see you as a human being. Because often they won't see us as a human being. And often because we don't articulate what we need, it's a very difficult double bind we get ourselves in. Shell says, boundaries, saying no when my gut doesn't want to say yes, trying to put my needs first, fill my cup. Boundaries, saying no when my gut doesn't want to say yes. I'm confused a little bit by that statement, but like I said, anything to do with boundaries usually means the bigger issue is about guilt, because you're gonna feel guilt when you put boundaries in place. Anything to do with boundaries, also we have to be mindful of backlash. It's not always wise. You have to move stealth, especially when matters of finance, employment are concerned. We have to exercise discernment. You know? You couldn't be in alignment with your gut. I mean, so many empathic people are out of sync with their gut. None of their decisions integrate their gut or their instincts, because our gut and our instincts are giving us inconvenient insights. And because we're processing it through our head and we may not like what our instincts and our gut are telling us, we have to circumnavigate it, ignore it, sweep it under the rug. And then 10 years later, 5 years later, 15 years later, you're like, I always knew. But you can't trust your gut. It's not the time. It may be not safe to you. Your mother was too stressed to mother you. I feel you. I feel you. Potentially a lot of mayhem going on in her life, you know, and sometimes, depends where you're at on your journey. You know, you might be able to offer grace, compassion, and sometimes, depending on your personal situation, you may not be able to. Depends where you're at on your journey. Sometimes it's okay that it's not okay. You know what I'm saying? You know? Oh, that abandonment wound will trigger a whole heap of reactions. So therefore, like I said, Shells, the issue isn't boundaries. There's a bigger issue at interplay here, which is about abandonment. And if you don't address that, you'll forever be at the mercy of it. And then you'll have behavior which is unhelpful to you, to my mind, which is about trying to hold on, trying to incentivize people to stay when in your soul and you know in your knower that they don't want to be there for you. You know, so you end up creating more problems for yourself. The abandonment wound is what you need to befriend, you know, is what you need to understand, because potentially you're going to have hangers on in your life, but fundamentally you're not going to want to let people go. And over time, not great for your greatness. You know what I'm saying? Over time, that ain't going to be great for your greatness. Now I get it, you know, real talk. Good morning, sister. Good morning. You're not alone. Yeah. Yep. went in a career of servitude. Shells, empathic people who've often had difficult parents, who become people pleasers, often we end up in caring roles where we're underpaid and overworked, if you know what I'm talking about as well. Many of us end up as the nurses, carers. Yeah, we end up in caring professions, and generally our society doesn't value caring professions. You could be very well educated, and if you look at you have your degree, your masters, and so on and so forth, but if you compare yourself to someone who's an engineer, the income streams are very different. Society doesn't value people that care generally. So we end up giving in our professions, giving in our personal life, and sometimes the only place of sanctum is the shower or our car. If you know what I'm talking about, if your car is your only place of sanctum, because everyone else is pulling from you, taking from you. The car, the shower, yes, shopping, I see you, my queen, yeah, becomes the only little place of sanctum. It's gone way too far. However, if you fear abandonment, then this is also particularly tricky. Yeah, we're here. Mother's Day tomorrow. Just want to acknowledge that it is not all sunshine, lollipops, and unicorns and rainbows for people. Some of us have had unideal mothers. Some of our mothers have not been ideal. Sometimes, there's also favoritism in families, because we know the boys occupy a very interesting pedestal. We can only look and observe and think, flipping hell, I wonder what it would be like to be up there. If you know what I'm talking about, let me know. Mums have their own wounds, that haven't been healed for whatever reasons, and sometimes I've often said this to people, who are in therapy, and I'll be like, my mum needs to work on herself, or mum needs to work on herself. Well, actually, maybe the next leg is that you do the healing. You can't tell anybody that they need to heal. You can't tell nobody that they need to heal. Healing, making the decision to say, I'm going to work on myself, is a brave, bold one. Be grateful you made it to the chair, instead of campaigning that Mum, Bob, Dad, Uncle Derek all find themselves there. Be grateful you made it. Be grateful that you might be trying to break generational patterns of abuse, neglect. The victory goes to the courageous one who has the audacity to want to do it different, if you know what I'm talking about. Get your girl a heart, a like, tell a friend, tell a foe. I beg you a share. Please share my life. Helps me. Yeah, advice for empaths moving into deep recognition of self-abandonment and how someone don't like your truth. Absolutely. Remember, sometimes evoking belonging, we don't even like our truth. I used to do a video series called Inconvenient Truths. The truth is very inconvenient. And you will become deplorable and unacceptable to people if you don't play the game. A lot of people need you to collude and to pretend. And if you're in a family where you've decided, I'm opting out of this nonsense, it can lead to ostracization, isolation, abandonment. And sometimes it's a cross that we don't want to bear. So we choose to go back in, and that's absolutely fine. As long as you're making a deliberate, conscious choice, you have to decide consciously that, I have to play the game. And if you choose to do so, not lying to yourself is better for you. I tell people this all the while. Don't lie to yourself. Know that this thing is not working for you, and you're going to go in and you're going to pretend, and that's fine. But don't lie to yourself. Sharp Pink. I was known as the cantankerous one. Jamaicans and their words, cantankerous. Is that even a word in the dictionary? Cantankerous. Absolutely. Usually means you're a truth teller. And people don't like truth tellers because you're supposed to play the game. Thank you for all the flowers. Thank you for the appreciation. I do appreciate it. Shell says, yes, my mum was undiagnosed schizophrenic. I feel for you, my girl. That's not easy. You know, that shows, that means that, you know, you can also be disconnected from what you need, because often you had to step into the role of caring and walking on eggshells. So, you know, my hope for you is that, you know, healing sounds like, you know, my healing journey, and I get all these words, but, you know, I'm just an advocate that, you know, it becomes a part of our life. You know, there's times when you'll dip in and then you dip out. A bit like, you know, over the years, people come back to me, you know, they know, like, we don't get fixed. We understand that it's a journey, and sometimes life wallops us. If life's walloped you sometimes and you're not, yeah, Key, I need a word, it's all right. We all get walloped by life, you know, Shells. So, you know, my hope for you is that you learn to be kind to yourself. Caring professions or advocate for those who cannot pay for your worth. Well, there's always ways, my sister. You know, I think one of the things is learning to value yourself. You have to learn to value yourself. And that is not for the faint at heart. When you learn to value yourself. And sometimes that might mean you have to walk away from situations and people who show you that you don't have no worth. But that can be very difficult if you fear being on your own, or you got your abandonment wounds. I was the only female. Was you saying your mother was jealous? Yes, my mom was undiagnosed and had jealousy towards females. This is a big one, but jealous mothers. If people know about jealous mothers, it is a very bizarre concept that takes a little while to get your head around. I met many a soul who's had a mother who was jealous of them. Odd behaviors. It's almost like they're offended by your growth and your strides. Therefore, we have a mother who will never celebrate us. And what is the first thing we want to do when a kid creates a little picture, he wants to show the parent in it, get a little bit of a thumbs up. And over time, you kind of start to pick up on it, like, this mummy stuff is my mum's a bit off key. You know what I mean? My mummy can't celebrate me. These are very difficult realizations. But we also have to understand that the inner child in you will always seek that from a mum, you know? And so we want to acknowledge that. We don't want to deny that part of us. But this is where parts work is so helpful, internal family systems. We want to acknowledge that part of us that yearns for, that desires, but also the inner adult has to kick in. And also you have to develop your own strategies for self-appreciation, because if you don't, you'll forever be running back to situations, and unconsciously we will recreate situations. So if you keep going through certain patterns in your life, this is why we have to acknowledge the inner child, because the inner child has very creative ways of recreating familiar trauma. I love it when my clients get this insight. I love it. That's when you know your job is nearly done. I said, sister, you got it. You got it. You just end up recreating it. I was the only other female, trust me, in now that car and shower sanctum, the audacity. Yeah, man. Thank you, Jay Moses. Thank you for the roses. I got 2 hearts, two bunches of flowers. I got another bunch. Client brought this in for me today, and I loved. And this made nice too. I'm very fortunate. Really appreciate that, man. Very inconvenient views for true. Yeah. The truth is very inconvenient, but trust me, the truth will set you free. This is why I say, like, denial and distortion is very difficult for the human spirit. This is why people who do denial, like, I don't know how they do it, you know, because it's very difficult. I find it very difficult to lie to myself. But I respect that it's another way people learn to cope. But self-denial is hardcore, because you're now in conflict with your spirit and your soul, the soul that knows, you know? The soul knows. The soul knows. Cantankerous, yes, man, big up. You know them words. Gotta love Jamaicans, man. I love their vocabulary. I love how they command the British English language. Yeah, my body has kept the score. Good book to read. I lived on eggshells and now I'm retraining my nervous system. Yeah, befriend your nervous system. The nervous system is the wisdom within, you know, it's always speaking to us. When the phone rings and we roll our eyes, when we hold our breath, you know, some people, the more you understand it, you'll get a vibe and a sense. Remember, for many of us, we lean on our head too much. The head is buffering. The head is always trying to work things out, but the body knows. Intuition knows. You know people that ain't for you. We know safety, we know threat. The wisdom knows. Nervous system knows. Therefore, sometimes what often happens is we keep putting ourselves in situations that ain't great for our greatness. We keep running up into people's situation, nervous system. I keep feeling anxious. You gotta pay attention to the anxiety. We gotta focus. Where do you feel safe? Some of us are pushing the key in our own homes and we're not safe. Nervous system is speaking to us, but remember the head is always buffering. Don't lean on your own head. Trust the body. Trust the wisdoms. It's always speaking to us. Can we integrate that? One of the things I see, especially with a lot of my logical thinkers, you know, we might make an insight and then instantly it's like, but how do I change it? How do I change it? I said, listen, forget all the how do I change it. We don't want to focus on how you change it. Firstly, we just got to acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it. And then when you acknowledge something, we just want to see JetBlue, Paris crew. I see you. Big up mama. Olivia, Aston and CJ. Yeah, we need to acknowledge it. Some of our parents activate our nervous system, and sometimes it's so hard because in your head, you know, you love them and you want the ideal. As I say to many clients, we need to be very mindful about what the ideal situation looks like for us, because sometimes the ideal situation is keeping you in bondage. And I'm not talking leather straps and whips. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Pathologically jealous parents. Anybody out here had a jealous parent, a jealous mum? Yeah. A jealous mama. You know, and it takes time to clock it, innit? I was once told that someone was jealous of me, and am I on YouTube? Yes, you can find me on YouTube. Go to my profile, click the links and you can see that I'm on YouTube. Been at this for a hot minute, yeah? I don't profess to be a coach. I'm not a wounded woman who's decided I'm gonna come and talk about these topics. This is my purpose. This is a purposeful living life. Speak on the jealous mother, love to know. Jealous mums won't celebrate your victories. Sometimes it shows up in weird behavior when you find partners as well. You ever felt like there's some sort of odd behaviors going on? One of my most popular videos is on emotional incest. Emotional incest is a very uncomfortable conversation, but I've had to have a talk with many a soul to say, you know, mama's boys and emotional incest is sometimes something I've seen over the years. As I said in the video, it often shows up in it often shows up where the female in an intimate relationship with a man feels like the mother is just too up in the mix. You ever had that? A mother that's just too up in the relationship mix. You're like, yo, woman, sit down. Where the son is always going to the mother and telling them chapter and verse. Chapter and verse. Mother's all up in the mix. Jealous moms, if you have a jealous mother, you realize that your need to be acknowledged will never be celebrated. You know, it's like I said, the kid that comes home with the picture and you want the mum to be like, oh, well done. It's never gonna happen. You know, and in cases like that, I'm very much encouragement of finding other mothers, other mother figures, spiritual mothers. You know, life is a wonderful way of, if you are conscious and aware, you may begin to notice that other mother figures come into your life, you know. But yes, you will have a mother wound. You will have a mother wound, you know. And it's uncomfortable, it's not ideal, but, you know, this is our cross to bear. And bear your cross, but also strategize, you know. You know, I say this to people all the time, and I don't think they like it, but acceptance is what will set you free. One of the things that causes a lot of depression and anxiety is because we want it to be different. I've watched people battle with acceptance. I said, my sister, accept. That is the mother you have. Can you accept that? I can't accept that. I said, acceptance doesn't mean you like it. When we learn to accept something, it doesn't mean we like it. But if you think of the opposite of acceptance, we don't accept, so then what? We're on campaign trying to change people. Not great for your greatness. And what if it's not about you? I know, we'll take it personal. It hurts like hell. But what if it's not about you? What if it's about them and their story and their unresolved traumas that potentially they don't want to address? Can you not accept that? Not everybody wants to go looking. You know? Yeah. You know, we have to be very mindful, you know? The challenge is, yes, they may well have done, you know, whatever they've done, but the responsibility for you to heal with your life, to deal with the residue is actually your responsibility. Sorry, not sorry. Otherwise, you're just going to be that person who's banging on about what happened in 1985. 20 odd years later, 30 years right later, and your own potential has not manifested. How can we get those needs met elsewhere? But also, what are the ways that you want to acknowledge your mother in a beautiful way, if you choose to? Like I said, it's not for everybody. But what might be some of the ways that you're going to choose to? And it doesn't always have to be expensive. Doesn't always have to be expensive, but it's also about, you know, finding the ways to acknowledge. Maybe, like I said, it might be a mother figure. It might be a mother figure. Sometimes we may need to restore relationships. You know, I'm a massive advocate of restoration. I love restoration work. You know, I love when we get to a point where we decide, you know what, I want to reach out and some miracles happen. You know, but I also respect that restoration is not always possible either. It's not always possible either, and sometimes we may have to love from a distance. Sometimes we have to go no contact, but I don't, you know, there's a sort of trend, oh, you know, I'm going no contact with my mum's this, that, the other. I see a lot of that happening, and I'm not always an advocate. Because if you've made it like, oh, then what happens if you know, if you need to reach out? Sometimes you need to, things change, you know? I think going no contact with an unnecessarily difficult parent is a process. You may have tried. You may have tried. I'd like to know the best way to contact you. Feel free, go to my profile. Go to my profile here or go to keyforchange.com. Got my beautiful website. I can't, unfortunately, but I will still drop a card down tomorrow. Shells, that's a beautiful thing. That's such a beautiful thing. We don't know what may have happened in her timeline that, you know, why she became schizophrenic. Probably safe to assume, you know, difficult things. I'm just sitting here in my office and I can see so many people walking around with flowers. And you know, for people who have very strange relationships with their parents, it can be really difficult. You know, it can be really difficult when the relationship is not ideal, or when you want to acknowledge and celebrate a parent, but you just know that if you open up the chamber, you're going to get caught in some mayhem, you know, so you choose to not to, but there can be a sorrow that we carry. Like I said before at the beginning, Mother's Day was often for many years quite difficult for me. You know, my dad compensated. I had a friend who acknowledged how difficult it was for me because, you know, the man was gone to the next conquest. Let's call it that. You know, them man that when they're on the next conquest, they forget about the kids that they had with the other woman. The new one is the one that gets all the attention. I was young, I was naive. You learn, you know, life makes sense backwards. But I always felt that void. Isn't it a beautiful thing? It's only as I'm talking about that now that I realize it don't mean nothing. It's past. It's gone. It's gone. And I got two beautiful daughters who acknowledge me. I'm very grateful for my daughters. Very grateful for them. My T and T. I went for years, contact no years, but I had to. Good for you. But now she's on treatment. She's easier to be around. Shells, well done. Thank you for sharing that. Because I think people have gone into this assumption that no contact means you'll forever no contact. Sometimes no contact is important for a season, and life can evolve. Like, for whatever reason, your mum decided to get some assistance, and she might be much more bearable to you. You know, and Shells, you may have found ways to make her much more manageable to you. So you might, you know, sometimes, as I say to some clients, like, you got to go with your gang. You can't go on your own. Sometimes when you go on your own, they kind of box you in and try and bad you up so that you become much more conscious. So you kind of go in to see mama with your gang. So you don't get boxed in by them. You know what I mean? Or you keep it limited. Me coming for the hour. I'm coming for the hour and then I'm left. Come on, Eric, you know this. Thank you for your wisdom. I just checked your links. I'll reach out. Blessing to all mamas in the lineage. Absolutely. Absolutely. She's still my mum. I see there's trauma that I don't know about, so I give her grace. Shells, grace is one of the most beautiful qualities in the world because grace isn't talked about sufficiently. I've done a video on this called Inspired by the book, What's So Amazing About Grace. The beauty of grace is, you see, grace is higher level spiritual living. Grace means with everything that's happened, I can choose to stay away. Grace means I choose to extend grace. Grace is a beautiful quality, you know, and to some degree, you know, I don't know. I never want to live with regret. There's not much I don't live with regret. I don't want to live with regret, you know. And so, you know, we want to honor the soul. Please don't tell me that's a wasp in it. Oh no, that was out the window. Yeah, we want to honor the part of us that is their child, and we'll always have a love for a mother, as difficult as they can be. Just means we may not choose. We choose not to be all up in the mix. You know, we don't want to be all up in the mix. Conquest is the word. Conquest, you know what I'm saying? Evolving, belonging. You know, when they're on to the next conquest, they forget they got children. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all about the new conquest. Bless them. Life will teach, you know. Life teaches. That's the way it works. Yep. Short, very small visits with people that support me. Yeah, go with your gang. Hey, Sabrina. My brethren from morning, thank you so much. You know how much I love you. Jet Blue, hey, the Harriers are in the building. Me fambo. How are we? It's your girl Killy. I've got another bunch of flowers. Bless them, conquestors indeed. I know. I feel like saying, you know what? Maybe they need to come and talk to me, you know what I'm saying? Because I've done the healing. You know what kind of mayhem's going on in that anyway, but it is what it is, you know? That's what the serial womenizers do, innit? Love you forever, girl. Love you forever. Bridging for life. Bridging for life. Yeah? On to the next conquest. That's what they do. They go from one to the other. That's all they do. And then they just leave pure carnage. But by God's grace, I was determined to make pain purposeful. If you are determined to make pain purposeful, you got the secrets to good living. Between you and the maker, you have to find a way, you know, between you and the maker, because none of us, remember, for many of us single mothers out there, we may have been naive, that's fine, all right, but we never estimated that we would have been properly on our Todd. If you know what I'm talking about, give me a heart, give me a like, let me know. Yeah, we never thought they would have not only abandoned us, but the two children too. Yes, yeah, Yeah, we never signed up for the single parenthood. Yeah, we know that they had a little interest in behavior. All right, we kind of knew certain things, but we lived in hope, innit? We thought the pum power might have converted them. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, we thought we might have converted them. Life took us on a lesson. And remember, my people, if you don't learn the lesson, you repeat the class. Many of us repeating classes can't graduate. I graduated. I got my first lick, lash. I graduated. I took it on board. You can't change your man, ladies. Many of us are single ladies because we thought we could have changed them. Life taught us, innit? Then they're off to the next conquest and they rinse and repeat, do the same thing. Rinse and repeat. They just keep doing the same thing. Then your children got a whole heap of half brother and it gets embarrassing, innit? I'm sorry, I'm not lying. I'm not here to pretend. We've been on the other side. They're now 21 and 22. I'm now married with 2 more children. That's so beautiful. Shells, man, well done to you, man. I salute you, my sister. Feel free, inbox me. You know, it feels like you've been through it. You've been through it. And life will always put us through stuff. We need to understand that life is always going to put us through stuff. You have to find the lesson in it. Because like I said, next thing you know, you've got Bob, Dick, Derek, John, same kind of brothers. And then you want to complain to me like, people keep attracting narcissists. Yes, you do, because you ain't done the work on yourself. There's something that you do where you keep attracting the same type of people to you. And maybe you don't want to do the inner work. You're straight on dating apps. Don't want to sit by yourself. Don't want to be with yourself. You're hurrying up going to find something else. Is it no wonder that you keep finding the same ones with different names? It's a pattern. Sometimes we've got to take a pause, but it's very difficult when you've dated someone and then they're off to the next conquest and then you're by yourself doing healing work, innit? It's annoying, innit? I don't know if anybody's ever felt that way. There's me reading Dear Iyanla Vanzant, going on lyrical spiritual retreats and so on, trying to get deep, and then they're off having another wedding. Anybody ever experienced that? And you're like, hold on, how'd that work? They just look like they keep landing on their foot, showing off. Look like they're living their best life, or you're there bawling out your heart because it still pinches. Trust the process, ladies. You have to learn to trust the process. You have to learn to delay gratification. And don't be trying to find no next man when the old man go and find another woman and now you're feeling inadequate because you're single and you're lonely. Sit with the singleness, sit with the loneliness. Some of us don't want to sit with the singleness. We don't want to sit with the loneliness. So we go out there attracting trash. We're attracting something else with a bag of potential and no drive and no ambition. And then you're worried and then you're concerned why your life is lackluster. If you keep repeating the patterns and you keep finding demolition projects and you're baffled why none of their potential manifests, give me a heart, give me a like. Let me answer your question because I could break this down easy peasy. The reason you keep attracting potential is because you don't want to work on your own. And then you want to be telling Bob, Dick and Fred about what they need to be doing. You go above and beyond to help them to build their dreams, all the while your life is stagnant. Or you're hoping for some acknowledgement. You see, this is where our mummy wounds come in. This is, you know, we have to be conscious of our mummy wounds. Mothers, we have a massive responsibility. And so do fathers, but, you know, majority of the care generally is done by the women, you know. Majority of the hands-on care is done by the women, which is why mothers, they do get a hard going in therapy. I'm sorry, I'm not always comfortable with it, but I'm trying to help you make sense of the nonsense in your life so we go back to be able to move forward. You have to go back to be able to move forward. This is why some of you will have limited success with these coaches that you keep on finding. Coaches generally aren't equipped with the unconscious dynamics. Now, I know there's some damn great coaches out there. However, I do have my little biases. You know what I'm saying? Big up to all the psychotherapists in here who've done the degree, the masters, signed up for accreditation, got all your badges. So true. I did so much work, finally found a good, healthy one, and now we're doing the work together. Shells, I'm really pleased for you, man. You know, sometimes those childhoods that we have can pave way for us to be in mayhem relationships as well. You know, well done to you. This is a massive glory for you, Sister Shells. I'm really glad. I'm really glad to hear that. Good afternoon, Big G. I see you out there. Feel free. We're talking about tricky mums and mother figures, you know. It's not all, you know, some of the things people are like, oh, Keely, you're always doom and gloom. I don't think I'm doom and gloom. Trust me, when you can contend with the difficult things in life, it paves way for genius. I see miracles every day in the therapy room. I see miracles every day, you know. And look, clients are giving me my flowers, man. Oh, bless them. But I don't think, what does it say? I don't think I would have found that I had not done so much work on myself. Shells, I'm proud of you. I just want to acknowledge that the choices you've made have saved your life and probably have saved the life of your children. Yeah? I have a great respect for people who choose to do the brave work of looking at themselves. Because as mothers, you know, our unhealed traumas impact on our children. As mothers, our unhealed traumas impact on our children directly and indirectly. I'm even going to go so bold to say, if there's things you see your children, about your children's behavior that you don't like, question is it reflective of how you've raised them? And I'm not saying that for us to beat up on ourselves. Some of us had to make choices and there was unintended consequences. Yeah, there was unintended consequences. But I have to shoulder that. I have to shoulder that. Yeah, we have to shoulder that. I hear you in a moment. I'm going through it. I'm a mum. Yeah, I'm going through therapy right now. So my daughter doesn't have to suffer more of my trauma. Who's that? Is that Big G? Big G, respect to you, Big G. Big G, I see you. Listen, this is the way that as women who may have been in relationships that weren't healthy, and we want to break the cycle, because we know if we don't break the cycle, we're paving the similar way for our children. Respect. Yeah? Big respect. Enough respect to you, because this is almost a mother's challenge. When you start to see your life has taken a certain road, or you've picked a lackluster father for the child, right? Based on the limitations of your awareness at that current time in your life. If you back on the swipe looking for the next big Dick Derek, it's not great for your greatness, not great for your greatness. Some of the ladies, we don't want to pause, you know, detox and rewind and come again. We back out there, putting on the push-up bra and going to meet someone else again, right? And then what? We're bringing all the stuff into the home with the child. Because what? We have an insatiable appetite and a desire to be needed and loved by a man. But do we put the necessary protection mechanisms in place to protect our young, vulnerable children? Some of us, we won't, for whatever reason. For the mothers who've realized, hold on, I need to do a hard break here, you know, because listen, I'm dodging bullets out here, and you decide that you're gonna go and do the inner work. Salute. Because it's our endeavor to make the change that our children don't inherit the same behaviors. Respect. Yeah, no more. Big G. Listen, respect to that, man. Big respect to you. No, don't want a man. I want me for my baby girl. I'm doing the inner work. The love for myself, where I was locked in other ways internally, is the way. Respect to that, man. That's Braveheart business. It's not easy, but the honesty and the long journey will be so much more. Big G, the question is, what in life is easy? Sometimes we have to ask ourselves, you know, oh, therapy's hard. Suffering is hard. Suffering is hard. Being unconscious and functioning from your childhood wound is hardcore. I would rather sit in my therapist room and cry snot bubbles, yeah, than to be going out there unconsciously and creating mayhem, not only for me. And this is the challenge for us as mothers. You know, when we don't do the inner work, you know, and I'm not saying this isn't the truth for the dad, but it is true. Let's just focus on mums today. Tomorrow's Mother's Day, innit? When we don't do the inner work, the mayhem affects our children. And for some of us mums, we want to cuss and say the child this, the child that, but however we raise them, what responsibility do we want to take for the children that have matured? That doesn't mean we burden ourselves. We have to give ourselves grace, innit? We have to give ourselves grace, you know? We have to give ourselves grace. We may have tried the best we could. We tried the best we could. We tried the best we could, you know? And maybe our parents tried as best they could. That's grace. You know, giving ourselves grace. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, sis. You're most welcome. It's not the child's fault. They learned from us. And we learned from our past, unfortunately. Absolutely. Breaking the cycle, Big G, that is breaking the cycle. And it's not about telling your children to do better. It's about being better yourself. You have to model it. You have to embrace it yourself. Because sometimes the damage is done, you know? Personally, my children, their father is their father. Like, it's done, innit? What can I do? That's the decision I made. Based on what I know now. I can't remedy that. I can't fix that. We have to understand that some of it we can't fix, but we can choose to take responsibility from here on out. That's it. I'm going to take responsibility, and some of it will still manifest. You know? Yeah, what they say? Yeah, you have to share it. There is no point saying it. They will watch and learn. We can only do us in the present moment. Absolutely. But be careful of that. Sometimes the therapy stuff sometimes it can get a little bit selfish. I think there's a balance to get, right? We understand that people pleasing has caused us problems, and we can't just hard break on it. It's also about finding balance. But the shift, the challenge of change is, you know, some people ain't going to be there when we decide we can't be doing it. Like, the game's got to change. I can't just be overgiving and overgiving and overgiving. The game's got to change. People who've benefited from you being that way will have a problem with your transition. Especially the people who've benefited the most from it. They will rebuke you, you know? But that's life. This is one of the things I will say to people on my program, Navigate Narcissism Now. We got to get out of our comfort zone. Okay, so we're going to expect loss, but what do you need to introduce into your life? What do you need to do differently? We can only do us in the present moment. I'm not too sure about that. I could take responsibility for myself. Because sometimes the kind of further end of therapy can kind of create a kind of unconscious narcissism, like it's all about me. And I don't believe it's all about me. I think we're all interconnected. But finding a way that a medium that is happy, that works well. So that you place yourself at the forefront, absolutely. You no longer leave yourself in the back boot, you know, but you also consider your own needs. For many of us people pleasers, we're so disassociated from our own needs. Like, that in itself, articulating them is a massive victory. And we can move forward. Remember, it's not linear, Big G. You don't just, your healing journey isn't linear. You don't go from here to here to here. There'll be backsliding. There'll be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward. You know, we have to get out of this. It's a flow. And on some things you'll backstep, and then other things you'll be like, right, I want to become conscious of that. Make sense? So that you give yourself grace. You don't want to ever think that you should get to the point where you just fully arrive. Nah, sir, not great for your greatness. There's no written way to do manifesting. We speak, that's our manifestation. We manifest every single moment of the day. Many of us are manifesting unconsciously. You want to manifest consciously. Manifestation is a part of our nature. We're always manifesting. You might be manifesting lunch. You know, you might be hungry and then you manifest the lunch. We're always manifesting. What we want to do is to become conscious of manifestation so that we don't bring mayhem into our life. But mayhem will happen. Also understand that mayhem will happen. It's not about how life does this, that, the other. The power is always how you respond to life. Understand that life is going to do what life does. Do not get under the illusion that you can control life, because that will send you in a different direction. I was feeling a bit flat about tomorrow, but we've reinvigorated some strength. Thank you. Shells, I just want to say, man, I think the fact that you acknowledge your mama with everything you've spoken about is a beautiful thing. You know, do what sits right with your soul. Protect yourself. Go 10 toes down. Go with your gang. Drop in, drop out. But also, sometimes think about what you might need to do to celebrate you. You know what I mean? What might that look like? How to celebrate you. I'm not really depending on anybody else. I just know where I went wrong and where it came from. Big G, you know what I like? I like what I'm hearing from you, and I have a habit of reading between the lines as I'm hearing the audacity of self-responsibility. Self-responsibility is a game changer. Self-responsibility is very difficult if you lie to yourself. I take responsibility. Based on what I knew then, I may now choose to make different choices. It's energy transferring, but I'm doing more in the healing journey of doing it more spiritual. Spiritual healing is the ultimate way, my sister. We are spiritual beings, you know. This is a battle between me and God. Yeah, I remember when I got rejected for a promotion at work, and I felt like I can't get anywhere in this job, and I was more qualified than everybody else. And they told me no again, and I made a commitment. I had a word with God that day. I said, God, I ain't applying for another job, because applying for these jobs is making me lose my confidence. And I believed in myself, but getting the rejection was starting to wobble my confidence. And I had worked too damn hard to have that panel of people mess with my confidence. And I made a decision that day and a pact with God that I would no longer apply for any of their jobs, and I never did. If I believe in myself, it is my duty to honor that. And if I keep putting myself in situations where people undermine me, humiliate me, and I'm left feeling like I'm not good enough, it's my responsibility to take myself out of those situations. No, sure. It's my responsibility to respect myself enough to take myself out of the situation that undermine me and affect my confidence. No one is coming to save me. I have to learn to save myself. If I believe in myself, it's my duty to honor that. It's my duty to honor that. Not sit there waiting for them to say like, oh, you're pretty brilliant. If I was waiting for them to tell me I was pretty brilliant, I'd still be in the dead end job right now. If you know what I'm talking about, put dead end job. But let me tell you something, believe in yourself takes audacity. And this is where it gets spiritual. Big G, I hope you're listening, because you start to have a faith in you, because you are trusting something that you can't see, because all around you, people are telling you no. Who do you think you are? Get back in your box. You ain't passing the 30 grand threshold, 30K a year threshold. Everything around you is telling you no. Self-belief is faith, and it's invisible. That's why they say we walk by faith, not by sight. You have to believe in something when outside of you, there is nothing there that is reaffirming, but it's between you and your maker. That's faith. That's the audaciousness of faith. If you believe in yourself, can you leave the job? Now that took me time. My ego weren't having it. Leaving the job felt too big, but I did it gradually. Went down to 4 days, went down to 3 days. Then I took a sabbatical for 1 year. Needed to test if I could do it on my own. God is good. People gave me grace. Want to big up Plias, who gave me my first opportunity, my first contract. The battle is within. If you believe in yourself, when everything around you is doubting you, that's why I want to big up all the mother figures out there. And you have no idea what words of encouragement can do to one person. If you can encourage another human being, remember, some people can't encourage because they got their own bad mind stuff. But sometimes it don't even take a lot of encouragement. Sometimes you can sow a seed in a soul and you have no idea where that will go. Encourage somebody. Just a nudge to push them out of their comfort zone. When you develop self-belief, you will have no evidence around you. It's a spiritual thing. It's something inside. I remember when I worked at IKEA and they told me they're gonna promote me, and they made me checkout captain. All I was doing was collecting all the clutter that people kept flinging down at the checkouts. And in my soul, I knew I could do better. I knew I could do better. I didn't know how, but I knew I could do. I said to myself, I could do more than this. I know I can do more than this. I know I can. I ain't got no GCSEs. I ain't got no qualification, but something in my spirit know I could do more than this. And then I started to take steps from that. You see, that's faith. All around me is telling me, how are you going to do that? You left school with nothing. You left school with some advice, which was don't come back. Yeah? So you have to believe in something. That's the spiritual part. The spiritual part. Yeah? The spiritual part. The spiritual part. Faith. Faith is essential. And trust me, you will be tested. Your faith will be tested. I never got here today where I am right now by not believing. I had to believe in something. I had to believe that I could break cycles. I had to have the audacity of hope. Wonderful book by Obama. Oh girl, healing is so upside down and sideways. You know what I'm saying, Shells? As I say to my client, I only work with people for a year. I don't do quick in and out therapy. It don't work like that. Why doesn't it work like that? Because you've got to be tested. I say to people, go out there and let life test you. Come back. Let's see what happens. You really needed to hear this today. Amen. God is good every time. When you're at peace with your own reality, yeah, but peace is fluctuating, innit? The phone's always going to go. There's always going to be a message. There's always going to be some drama. It's not about having a drama-free life. You know what I mean? What I would say to you is, if life is drama-free, be grateful in it. Bathe in it. And celebrate the moment. We do not know what tomorrow will bring. Tomorrow there might be mayhem. You get a phone call. This has happened. That's life. But understand this, how you respond to that is that's where the wisdom is. That's where your power is. You love me energy, blessings, man. Big G, you're doing big things. That's right, Big G. But Big G, this come from a dream and a hope and an aspiration where Spirit said to me, you can do more than this. You know what I'm saying? Went to college, did an access course, sat in college. I didn't even know how to write there. T-H-E-R-E, T-H-E-I-R. Listen. But you know what? By God's grace, I kept finding people on the journey who believed in me, who encouraged me. You have no idea what encouragement can do. If you can encourage somebody, give them a word of encouragement. You have no idea what seed can be sown and how it can shape and change someone's life. You know, many of us go invisible. People have low expectations of you. I remember once I had a therapist and I remember telling her one of my dreams and I could see the look on her face. It was like, who do you think you are? I could feel it. I feel it. You know how we feel things. Many of us feel things. You know what I mean? And I said to her, don't worry. I hear myself to myself say, who do I think I am? I hear myself, and then the thing is, I can offer, if I have a dream, I'll hear a part of me. I used to hear it, I don't hear it no more. The part of me used to say to me, who do you think you are? And I would always say back to it, as I grow over time, I'm a child of God. My playing small don't serve the world. You see, sometimes we have voices in our head that speak to us and diminish us and keep us small. The skill is learning how to speak back to those voices within. We all have voices within. They might call it whatever, but it is what it is. We all have inner dialogue. But you see, if your inner dialogue undermines you, puts you down, and you don't have a way to speak back to the inner dialogue, that inner dialogue, the negative inner dialogue, will control you and keep you small. But you see, once I developed a compassionate side of myself that spoke back to it, game changer. Dream big. Dream big. And I'm not even working at half my capacity right now. We're just realigning to reassert vision and purpose. Remember, it's not about you, it's about the mission. comes through you, but it's not about you. One of the biggest challenges for anybody who has a vision is learning to manage your ego. I'm studying biology, psychology, and sociology. Yeah, man. Education is a transformative tool. I'm a massive advocate on that journey. For me, education was a massive transformative tool. And I know it's not for everybody, but for me, going back to college, getting the degree, God bless how I got it, and doing the masters were game changers. Game changers. Did I believe I could do it? No. But I knew I would try, and I knew I would try and get through one semester. I had to chunk down. I've got a client at the moment. He's going through it. I said, it's just one essay at a time. Stop worrying about the 4 years. Forget the 4 years. Just think about one thing. We got to go down. We got to make it small. No one can eat a cow, but you can eat a burger. We start small. Keep it small. Actually, speaking of which, start small. It's why I have my diary. See it there? Small victories. Because if you want big change, you got to start small. You ever see a man go in the gym and start pushing 100 kg? He'd have problems. Or the gal them, because I know the gal them ain't mucking about on the squat machine nowadays, are they? Jesus Christ. It is. I put myself on the Access course when my girls were 2 and 3. Then my degree. Oh, Shells. Shells, I'm so grateful for the sacrifice you made yesteryear. Shells, the decisions you've made has been transformative in your children's life in ways that you may not see or recognize right now. There's a resilience to you that is profound. And you found a way out of no way. You found a way when no one believed in you. The environments that you come from make way for you to have gone down a particular path, but something in you said no, something in you said I can do more. God bless your sister. You know, I do have a bias for the people that do the work. I don't care what nobody says, because it is a supreme way to transform your life. And as we are mothers with the children who look up to us, if I do my part, I pray that it will inspire and touch their lives in ways that I won't recognize, but not only my children's life, but their children's life, that we will affect a generation. I got goosebumps. So proud of you, my sister. I'm Big G. I see what you're doing out there. I'm doing my assignment now today. I'm finding it hard to no support, falling apart, but I'm giving Big G, what is your assignment on? You know, let me know what your assignment's on, you know? Access course, yeah, man, the Access course, no joke. Even when I got to uni, they told me that I didn't have maths GCSE. You can do it. You chunk right down. I'm doing biology right now. Boy, I hope you're using ChatGPT to get some, you know, you want it to be simplified. You want it to be simplified in ways that make sense to you. I remember doing brain and behavior that had all the brains in it, the hippocampus, the amygdala, you see. I had to do mind mapping. I had to do pictures. I got coloring pens and started to color in the brain, neuroleptics. The only reason I remember this is because I had to draw it. You have to find a way. You got to get spiritual on this one, my sister. What's the end goal that you want? What do you want to do? Not easy. I'm using my mic to speak to you right now. I hear you. Well, you might be circumnavigating and avoiding doing the things, you know what I'm saying? But remember, at uni, I said this to my other client. Also, remember, they've got resources as well, you know? You want to become a psychologist and to do somatic therapy with my business. Beautiful. You know, to become a somatic therapist, I'm only telling you this because I did a degree and I realized I didn't need a degree to become a psychotherapist. But, you know, do what you're doing. It's all good. Because trust me, when I got in the room, people were telling me that, I was surprised for the first time in my life, people were telling me that I was smart. I was like, why? Because I got a degree. And they were like, yeah, but we're studying for a diploma and you're talking about stuff that we're not talking about here. And I was like, oh my Lord, look at that. I said, oh my Lord, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Me that went into college, struggled, had to highlight everything, had to draw pictures. Now they're talking about me being smart and that it's not appropriate for this room. I said, listen, you know how much money I pay for this education? You know how much I'm in to be this articulate? I'm going to use these words. I do what I can to respect myself. But what does self-love even mean? Self-love means auditing your phone, Start to get rid of people that ain't great for your greatness. Sheldon, if you want to know what self-love means, go look in your phone, go look in your WhatsApp at the people ain't great for your greatness, who you still have, allowing them to have access to you, and make a decision. You understand? Start small, audit your phone. Invest in this diary, small victories. I did it myself, me and my team, love my Claire. Trust me, I've seen a shift within myself. But I'm trying to get this work done, and it will be hard. It will be hard. It will be hard. Wanted to become a counsellor, psychotherapist, got a psychosocial and community work degree at 48. Bruh, I am that girl, 45. Big up to you. Yes. Going back to education. Education is a transformative tool. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care what, you know, they're just exploiting people. I don't care. I never heard that word before, moreover. Moreover, Jesus Christ, every essay had the word moreover. Never used it before in my entire life, but it became a part of my everyday vocabulary because I put myself through the trauma of trying to get a degree and a master's. You understand? It's about making a commitment. Wanted to become a counsellor, good for you. Because of my dyslexia, I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm using AI, but get confused. Also, go back to your university and see if they can provide you with any one-to-one support. Some of your universities can actually give you more support and more assistance. Sometimes that might be the laptop, Dragon software. See what additional support, because they don't, moreover, Eric, moreover. Who uses that word? I started to use it in my everyday vocabulary. That's when I knew it was a game changer. Student debt. Yeah, student debt. Have they given you an assessment support for you? I'm 42, got Big G. Go on, Big G. I'm at college. I'm doing a fast track. Proud of you, Big G. Well proud of you. Well proud of you. Yes, when you go to college as an adult learner, it's no joke. Never went to the student unions, never did any of the student parties, you know what I'm saying? I'm leaving. I've got to pick up children from play school. You know what I'm saying? Play school. There was none of that. So I can do an apprenticeship in September. Congratulations for you. Keep doing the work. We're here. We were talking about tricky mums, but we're talking about life, you know, life, liberty and fruit of the loom. Life is always lifing. Can you believe that my daughter is doing the same, but she doesn't know how? She doesn't know. Well, give thanks. You know, sometimes as mums, we grow up alongside our children. I'm a big advocate of that, you know. That actually, as you grow into motherhood, sometimes when you have a kid, you can kind of realize some of the stuff you haven't worked on in yourself. So it's almost like you're growing up in tandem with each other. Kind of growing up in tandem with each other. A need is a need. If you're using that as a reason not to support, you'll need go back. You know, Shells, you're doing, we are miracle workers here. And it doesn't mean everything's perfect. It don't mean that there aren't, you know, difficult things that we've done that haven't impacted on our children, but we have had the courage to look at ourselves and try to make a way, try to do things different. I've asked for so much support, but I don't think they realise. You know, one of the things I was very good at uni was finding support. I will ask people in positions to assist me. No shame in my game. I had Lara Jonah, she was one of my first mentors. Esme Martins, I went straight up to her. I knew she was a golden one. Straight up to her and asked for help. Jenny, my dear Jen, you know. I'm unashamed about asking for help. And actually, I think it's one of the reasons why I've been able to get where I am, because I'm not precious. I have no shame in my game. Yeah. Well, it is 3:16. I have a client at 4. And then I'm going to be cake delivering for my daughter, Tony, today. She's baking lots of Mother's Day cake, so I want to big up my child. I want to acknowledge tomorrow is Mother's Day. I want to acknowledge that sometimes we don't have ideal mothers, and sometimes, you know, we are where we are, and that there might be other people that you might be able to love on, but sometimes we might need to love on ourselves. As mothers, I want us to encourage us to give ourselves grace, and also encourage us to take responsibility, you know, also sometimes try to listen to our children, listen to their grievances about our behaviour and conduct. Take it on board. We are but human after all. Happy Mother's Day. I want to acknowledge my mother on this day. I look forward to tomorrow and what it shall bring. To all of you who've been on the live, who've interacted with me, I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time, your energy, your comments. Shells and Big G are going toe to toe. I think you two need to connect and help each other get over the line. Happy Mother's Day to all. Thank you all for your engagement. I appreciate you. Feel free, inbox your girl Key. And this is my Small Victories Diary. You can get this on Amazon or at keyforchange.com. We start small, but we like our men big. Do take care of you. Peace. It's so true.